Hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of We Got Your Six. I'm Marj Matchee.
And I'm Kentrina Jenkins.
And today with us, we have a special guest, good friend and fellow advocate, Brandon Kett. We're happy to have you on our show, Brandon. You've been a big part of my advocacy world for some time now, so it's nice to bring you on and share you with our viewers. You've been a busy guy in this advocacy world, too, for some time, and you don't get enough credit for what you do, but welcome to We Got Your Six. Can you just, for the audience, say where you are, who you are, and what your tours have been, kind of thing for us?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Good afternoon. For my military career, it started back in 2002, and I joined the Windsor Regiment. I was living in Windsor, where I was born and raised. Excuse me. And I was doing my high school. What do you call that? Where you go work outside of the school co-op at a veterinarian office, and the secretary there told me about her son who was in the reserves and how he got to go shoot machine guns on the weekend. So it seemed like a cool thing to do, to get paid to do. So I went and joined the reserves and got shipped out in the summer of 2002 for my basic and soldier qualification courses. It was the first year of them running. They just switched the system then. So anyways, ended up going through that, passed all my qualifications, and I was doing the militia for about 3.5 years. I liked it, but I wanted to join the infantry, so I tried to go reg force, join the infantry. Apparently, the infantry wasn't hiring at the time, which is kind of weird, but I think they just wanted to re-roll me back into my same trade because I already had been qualified. So they put me to the Armored Corps. So to speed up the process, I agreed because it was a long wait to try and get into reg force at times. So I just took what they offered me. That was in 2005. So then I went away and had to do my DP1, they called it at the time. It was your basic crewman for the Armored Corps, how to drive tanks, maintenance, and be a crew member of an armored vehicle. So I ended up doing that in Gagetown. Then I got posted out to the Royal Canadian Dragoons in Petawawa. And I arrived there in late August. And by October, I was already being put to a squadron to be deployed. So I only had a few months at the regiment, and then I was already being deployed.
And so you were deployed where?
Right away, as soon as I got into the regular force and was trained. So that was the end of 2006 is when I got re-rolled into the deployment, and I was on Task Force 103 in 2007. So I arrived early February to country there.
To Afghanistan? Is that what you mean?
Pardon me?
To which country? Afghanistan?
Afghanistan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's
Kandahar Airfield.
Right. That's how
Afghanistan.
I know you.
I had a few days in the base there just to acclimatize myself, and then I was going outside the wire on operations right away too. So it was pretty fast and furious.
No kidding. So can I ask you, knowing what we know about going into Kandahar and that they gave troops mefloquine, and I know you were given mefloquine on that tour, did you get the loading dose to go, or was that on site?
I did not get the loading dose of mefloquine. We were given 2 consent forms on my tour, one for Malarone and one for mefloquine. Weren't really given a choice, but we were told to fill out both. So then when we arrived in Afghanistan, mefloquine was awaiting us without a face-to-face sit-down talk about it or any consultation. It just ended up in a black bag with, like Dr. Nevin has said, because we were on the same tour, me and Dr. Nevin and Lionel Desmond. We were all on the same tour.
Right.
And it was a black garbage bag with everyone around it. My squadron's name was on one of the boxes in the bag, so it didn't matter which one you got.
Wow.
So
that's 2007, right?
Yeah.
And then it was 2014, I believe, when you were a part of that advocacy that forced the change of the label, right? And then
I came back from Afghanistan, and I ended up just trying to soldier on, right? Not knowing really that I was damaged from PTSD or from mefloquine brain injury. It just so happened that life started just becoming more difficult, but the pace didn't stop when we got home. Uh, our sister squadron had to go overseas, so immediately we had the best information from being overseas and real time information on the enemy and their tactics. So we were put to training the next squadron right away, like, engaged down. I don't know how it is now, but back then it was like push, 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 everybody maxed out all the time, right? So we were just burnt out, and we never got a rest even after. We just went back into it and actually started doing my own build up to go overseas again with my same squadron, but I tore my ACL in my knee during one of the training operations. So I had to end up staying home, and that kind of caused me a bit of a problem, just seeing all my friends, basically my military brothers, go overseas, and I had to stay home, and then I ended up posted to Gagetown to the training school. So I got put into like a corner somewhere because I was kind of useless at the time.
As it is with the military, it seems.
Mm-hmm. So, but I ended up going there, and I was hopeful. I was still trying to career orient myself and try to get back on my feet. I had no mental health issues that I knew about at the time. So I ended up having to go into marriage counseling from my ex, and our relationship deteriorated, and I was basically came home and it wasn't myself. Like we met when I was on overseas online, so she never really knew me before anyway. But the relationship, the person that I was just in shambles. So I ended up having to.
It's so sad, and I don't minimize yours one bit, but it's like every time we have these conversations, it's like repeat, push, repeat. You know?
Yeah.
What it takes from people. You
can't have a healthy relationship when you're living with a mefloquine brain injury unknowingly. Like, it's up and down. It's a mood disorder, so you're constantly struggling to try and just feel okay a lot of the time.
Exactly.
I
end up going.
Sorry, I have a question about that actually. So you mentioned like how you had gone into like relationship counseling and stuff. Did you notice like the symptoms, that were, probably like say mefloquine, or did your partner at the time notice? Like who noticed first, and kind of who spoke up about that first?
I think it was just an agreed upon thing. There were some certain things that happened in the relationship that had been coming for a long time, but like things happened where we were basically like, okay, if we don't go get help, this is probably going to end badly. But as soon as I went to get help, it kind of shifted away from the relationship. And I've talked about this at the inquiry or the committee that I testified that the counselor was the one that actually saw the symptoms of what she was calling PTSD at the time. And it was early on in the military mental health system that they were dealing with it. So it wasn't like now, like it was, there's a lot more ignorance when it came to, they're just basically blanketing us all with the same PTSD description of what we were dealing with when people had TBI, PTSD, complex PTSD, mefloquine brain injuries. So we all fit into a very nice category that they could put us into early on. And it kind of just stayed that way. And that's why it's been such a hard fight for us, I feel like, because they almost have to admit that they did something wrong, which we know is hard to do. So.
Well, hence that, I mean, they got away with that so well because we all know now that the symptoms mimic PTSD so badly that they were able to just hide it under that. The military was, and Health Canada. Everybody was just labeled PTSD, but nobody was getting better with talk therapy and the pharmaceuticals, which we know now ramp up mefloquine issues, right? So that's why it's so important to just hear these, over and over. I don't care how many times we got to say it, but you're a prime example, Brandon, of,
Yeah, I was right in the time when things were going the way they were, But before I forget, I wanted to touch on behavior in Afghanistan of my peers. Like there was a lot of infighting and things because none of us could get along. And I think at times that happens. You still learn to work together, but there's something else. Like there's something keeping us from being able to get along. And we were basically at each other's throats wanting to kill each other at times. Like it was bad. I had a time when I had a master corporal who picked on me actually a little bit. He didn't like me for whatever reason. I came late into the squadron, so I didn't form the bonds with a lot of the guys. I had it going overseas, so they were getting to know me, and I was, new to the regiment. I was still learning basic things like that they have been doing for years already. And anyway, I think I ended up taking off my helmet during one time. I was on guard duty, and I had to scratch my head, so I took my helmet off, and he was watching me through the surveillance equipment that we have in our labs, because I'm reconnaissance, right? So he calls me over, and he actually unscrewed my scope for my rifle and took it all apart like I was on course. And in the theater of war, which I don't know if you know about firearms, but when you take the scope off it, it takes the zeroing off the weapon, so it's not accurate anymore. He basically took away my ability to engage targets effectively. Anyway, I wanted to seriously kill that guy when I was over there. Like now I think back how angry I was and what I was thinking. I think there was more to it. Wasn't a very natural feeling. I think it was me experiencing some of the symptoms of mefloquine, like raging inside, wanting to just destroy somebody else.
Yeah.
I think that also parallels with what Marj says. Like you've said in a recent interview, Marj, you said that like realizing that the superiors were also under the same influence, right? So it's like,
I had a big hate on for every leader out there. I thought, what the hell, what is wrong with these people, that they had no control in Somalia? How could this even happen? Blah, blah, blah. I had serious hate on for people who came in and physically charged Clayton in front of me. And I was just like, oh my God, how does elite airborne soldiers end up doing all the things that went wrong there? How did their leaders let this happen? But I realized, like I said, that they were as damaged as the rest of everyone else was from mefloquine. They were just as impaired.
Yeah.
What I find,
I don't think it.
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't think it touches everybody in one way or another, and that people that say it hasn't affected them at all, I don't think they actually have the emotional and mental intelligence to realize the damage that it's done to them. It kind of leaves us. It's hard to get that introspective view and see how you're operating.
I have to agree with you. I think that a lot of people say, oh, it never affected me. But I think if you took a serious look at the things that go on in your life and how you're dealing with issues now and emotions and I bet you could chalk a few up too, that would directly correlate back. It's a potent brain altering drug, and we know that now. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And Brandon, I guess that I always want to say this in every interview, because when this drug happened in Somalia under the phony drug trial, this should have never hit you in Kandahar. This should have never made it that far. And on top of it, it's like we always say as advocates, when are the public going to realize how badly they were duped by this phony drug trial that fast-tracked that drug right into the market? And and I know that the catch-all phrase these days in the mental health area in the public is PTSD, manic depressive, bipolar, just escalating like crazy. Is it the people or is it the drugs they're given? And if you can fast-track that one drug, imagine what just the amount of people that have now taken Lariam.
Well, I think there's been over 30 million people in the world that have taken it.
Yes. So how, the fallout's unimaginable. You and I and Trina, all the people we talked to, and we got your 6, know the damage that it causes, and yet people still feel comfortable within my family, within other families, because they're going with the rhetoric that's handed to them by pharmaceutical umbrellas, that this is a safe drug. I'm telling you, if I had one bit of doubt, I wouldn't not prescribe it. And this drug is dangerous.
Yeah, I feel like they've been able to convince people that the risk is okay. It's like the greater good, or the bigger picture. They have them focused, and they don't realize the people, the casualties that are being made by it, especially through how much money it costs to train a soldier, like for all the courses and things that you need to do to get even basically qualified and the time in that you need. That's a lot of money that you're throwing away when you cause that person to have to withdraw from the military they could have been serving in for another 20 years probably, you know.
And then leave that soldier.
Even more so, you know what I
I
mean?
only had a 10-year, I was only in the Reg Force for 10 years. Like I could have probably served on for many more years. I'm a healthy individual in a lot of ways, but I can't pass their tests that they require anymore. Like my brain, I have memory issues, I have concentration issues, you know, anxiety, paranoia, all kinds of things that make it difficult to even do things daily. So there's no way I'd want to trust myself even to protect someone else and their life relying on me, because I know that I might not be the best choice to be beside somebody anymore, you know. And that's hard to admit for a lot of soldiers.
I was just gonna say that's a hard statement to make.
Especially
You're a powerful warrior for even knowing that, you know.
Like it's taken a lot of like change in myself, like to go inside and even see the poison worldview that I was given in the military, and to try and turn myself around and get out of that. It was hard, and I feel like a lot of soldiers are still stuck in that cultic mindset. Like it's kind of like a cult in a way where you're segregated from society. You operate in a different way daily than most people could imagine, you know.
And you're supposed to suck it up better than everybody else, and you're a human being. And maybe you could have, if it wasn't for a brain-altering drug that you can't control. With, you know, what we do find, like you're a prime example of someone who's rising above and taking control back. So I think Kentrina had a question. I interrupted there.
No, it's okay, definitely. It's crazy because I find Brandon is always someone that I relate to the most. You know, when we talk about mefloquine, like we're the same age, you know, within like a couple months. And then I'm learning a lot more about our situation, like the similarities even on this video, because when Brandon was here going through relationship counseling, I would have been on the exact same base, going to the exact same mental health center, going through the relationship counseling. And then even like say 2 years ago, you know, on the same base, I'm not seeing any changes, you know, like, so it's like the level of, you know, misunderstanding and, you know, psychoeducation about, oh, it's just PTSD, you know, like, because my situation is a little different because I knew my husband before tour, right? So we were together 2 years before, and then he went away, and then, you know, so then we have like, you know, these last 10 years of, you know, whatever they are. But everyone had said to me, you know, that it was just like the honeymoon phase, right? So it's like I find it frustrating. Then even sitting here, I'm kind of thinking, is it a benefit that I had those 2 years before? Because I can stand up, you know, and I know how frustrating it is for me to stand up and say, you know, there's something different, there's something more, it's more than PTSD. And that's how I found out about mefloquine, right? Because I was searching for concussion stuff, and then I landed on, you know, the mefloquine advocates. But it's like, I can't imagine how frustrating it is for someone, you know, that's standing there alone saying, okay, this is different, right? Because if people are going to tell me this, it's just PTSD, right? And I'm like, look, these are the differences. Imagine what they're saying to you, right?
Well, yeah. I'll talk about the end of my military career, because it was probably one of the hardest times I had to go through. I had been in counseling. They put me on a slew of SSRI and antipsychotic, anti-anxiety medications. I think I had taken like 15 different ones in a span of like half a year, just because nothing was working. So nothing clued into them that, you know, it could be something else. So they just kept different names of different pills, and I don't even know. It made me more suicidal than I had ever felt in my life, just taking all these different drugs. Like I fantasizing about a certain place I was going to go put my exhaust pipe in my window. And like, I didn't want to do that, but these things kept replaying in my mind, you know, when I was taking these drugs. So I ended up going on to medical marijuana eventually. Is the only thing that actually kind of stabilized me in a way. It's not cured me, but it's been something I could use to kind of stabilize my life. And I feel like it's helped me develop a healthier mindset too. It's kind of taken me more into my emotional qualities, you know, than I was able to do through my military. I'll even say mind control, where there is no room for compassion or empathy or even self. You're not allowed to think for yourself. You need to be part of the team, and I see why they do that. To be an effective fighting force, you need that kind of mentality, but it's not healthy for the individual, you know. So it's been a process to try and come out of that alone.
No kidding. Hats off. Yeah.
Yeah. So Brandon, so from the end of your military career and, you know, being in like such a deep, dark space, like when I think of you, I think of your Facebook group, like the giant community that you created, the Canadian Mefloquine Support for Veterans, right? How did you get from like that bad spot to, I checked, it's September 2016 was when you started that group. So how did you get from like the end of your career to starting a community?
Yeah, such a long story, so it's hard to get to everything. But in the end of my career, I was kind of attacked and ridiculed by my chain of command. It kind of forced me to segregate myself from the military medical system, because I found Dr. Nevin's work by chance, just Googling my symptoms outside of my PTSD. And then one of the things that came up was persecutory delusions. I was thinking my bosses were against me, but they were actually giving me that feeling too, because they were against me. So I was kind of like, my delusion was being validated to me, and it just made me go dark. Like, I isolated from everyone in the basement for 2 years in New Brunswick, because my ex had moved my kids back to Ontario for 1 year and 8 months away from me. So I was just in a bad spot, being away from my children to keep me going. So anyways, I petitioned for a compassionate posting 2 times. They denied me. They tried to charge me multiple times. My own warrant, who was in charge of me, didn't even know I had a PTSD diagnosis, because I tried to come back to work off of the PTSD, because I was still career-oriented. And I even passed my Armored Recce Crew Commanding course, which is a demanding course to get your Master Corporal rank in the Armor Corps. Like, we have to go above all the other trades for our promotion that way. I passed it. It was a hard course, but after that, I started to spiral downhill. Like, I think it just took the last bit of energy that I had to get through that, and then I just couldn't take it anymore. And I was holding it together, and I could look back, and even on courses, like, I couldn't keep track of anything. I had no memory or organizational skills, and I had a brain injury on that course, but it wasn't, for whatever reason, as bad as it got, you know. So I ended up getting into JPSU, which was the Joint Personnel Support Unit. I think they call it the IPSC now, or something else.
Yeah, they've moved on.
Yeah. And I ended up getting a posting to a Meaford base to get closer to my kids finally. 6 months before I was going to be released, they let me go. But then they ended up extending me another 8 months after that, because they thought I had complex PTSD, and they're sending me for like neuropsych exams and all kinds of stuff, because they couldn't still figure out what was wrong, even though I was telling everybody mefloquine. My own doctor.
You were already saying it.
I was like, I told her I found the answer, and I felt like I was bringing this information. I was going to be so helpful to, you know, everybody. I'm like, I really felt like I found something when I came onto it. So I brought it to her attention, and it was almost like I was treated like a conspiracy theorist, like you're saying.
Yeah.
And back then, I wasn't even a conspiracy theorist, so my mind shifted a little bit since then. But yeah, they just treated me like, made me feel unvalidated, and I just further internalized everything and just kind of went on my way. I was lucky to have cannabis, because I think it saved my life.
I think it saved a lot of lives.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, from there I just came to Meaford, and I just kind of kept my head down to get released because I felt like I was becoming a target because I was posting a lot of stuff online. I became an advocate before mefloquine, just in kind of the truther community. I was trying to educate on cannabis and marijuana because I was in a whole different battle with the government with that, because I was using medical marijuana while still serving, and it wasn't really
Right.
a good thing to do. There's quite a few of us doing it though, so we were kind of like rising up, you know, and we're saying, no, this is our health, and we're going to do what needs to be done.
It always amazes me that they can write a prescription for opioids but can't see the benefits of that. I mean, now that it's legal, it's a bit different, but just and it shouldn't be amazing. It's just like why we're here with mefloquine. It's big pharmacy, pays big money, makes big money.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw, but I had a friend who served with me in the same area when we were being attacked by our chain of command. His name was Paul Borg, and I ended up moving on, and about 8 months later, he killed himself because of the attacks that were done to him. He tried to fight back so hard against the chain of command with medical marijuana. He wrote like a thesis to the chain of command, and he really tried to like make a difference, and they ended up locking him up and taking his medicine away. It was at the same time they did that to that RCMP officer out east there.
Right.
And that was a big thing too. And he ended up.
Those people are heroes. They just were never heard. Just like I mean, it took forever for us to even get people now. I mean, again, I wore that tinfoil hat, Brandon. And I don't want to see anyone joining me on this, but I mean, there's power in numbers now, like I always say, and we got each other's backs, and you definitely know we have yours as best we can. And you've done amazing things. I'm proud of you. That's why I wanted the world to know you a little bit more. You're out there, and you represent those that went prior to the drug label being changed. I just want to allude to this in 2014, where it became the drug, where it was the third choice, right? They weren't. My question is always, like you got two things to sign. When you got there, it was mefloquine. Is that how it will be for your three choices nowadays too? Is this always going to be some way they get to slide that cheap shit right through everything else? But anyway, I digress. So
I just realized I failed to answer Kentrina's question, so I'll just touch on the group for a second. The reason why I started that group was because there was too much mefloquine information being compiled around the internet. I was part of all the international groups, and like I've somewhat become an international mefloquine advocate, not just Canadian. So I have friends from Ireland, Australia, the UK, the US, and I was seeing all the stuff they were posting. So to stay relevant I just made a group where I could start posting all the information about mefloquine. And that's kind of just where it started. And then I can talk about the Claude Lancet story, because I don't think he gets enough attention sometimes either.
He doesn't.
He's done.
I try to throw him in there every time we have a rally, because I mean,
and it's interesting because the group had started September 2016, and that's a key month, in the mefloquine world, right? Like I think.
Yeah, it was right after. Well, we gave our testimony in 2016, October 27th, I think, or 24th, something like that.
I sent mine in too, same time. Yeah. No, right behind you.
Yeah, and
that would have been the first rally, right? The first Veterans Mefloquine rally.
2017 was the first rally. So September 2016, Brandon, that's when Claude did the hunger strike, right? Yeah. And then that started September being that month. And September is important when you want to get to the Hill, because that's when normally all the MPs are sequestered in the House for that 2 weeks. So hence the reason Claude struck at that time, and I thought, let's follow suit with the rally, right?
Well, that kind of leads to my story is in the summer of 2016, we kind of all started seeing each other online, posting in the different veteran groups. And I think it was Claude that mentioned the mefloquine thing, because he had just learned about it. And so I kind of joined on with him online, and he ended up going to a Legion meeting in his area. He was going to go talk to his member of Parliament. They were going to do a town hall meeting. So I drove down from Port Elgin, where I was living at the time, to give him a hand. And I knew my mefloquine stuff pretty good, so we kind of both kind of went back and forth and made him look stupid a bit in front of other veterans. And they were like, "What? Why is this not being taken serious?" And so it started from there. And he was happy to have my support, and we became friends. So then he went after that. He just started losing his mind, and he was tired of waiting. So he went to Ottawa, did the hunger strike on the week. They had a what do they call us? The stakeholder meeting.
Yes.
In Ottawa. So everybody that was kind of relevant at the time in Veterans Affairs and the veteran community was in Ottawa. And he stood at the door of the Parliament building and he said, "Let Kent here know there's a starving veteran standing outside waiting to talk to him." And he just told everybody this over and over. And eventually somebody must have told him, because they came out and they actually had a meeting with Jane Philpott, Kent Hare, and I can't remember, Marlene Tabber, whatever his name is, the MP that.
Pepper.
Yeah, so the three MPs actually pulled Claude into an office, took a picture, and promised him the committee then, so he'd go away.
Just so he'd go away.
Yeah, so he did. But then they changed it and they put him onto an already existing committee that was going on called the Veterans Affairs Committee into Suicidal Prevention and Mental Health or whatever. Right. So they tacked us on to this already going on committee, which whatever, it worked out. But he was mad at first that they didn't give him his own. Basically, he wanted an inquiry into the mefloquine issue. So.
And we need one. He's not wrong, and we have to carry on his work. We just have to, you know, like I think it was important that he made that first step for us all. For me, it was enlightening because I hate that I make it sound good, but it's not, but it was like, oh, somebody finally, you know, finally somebody's, you know, on the same page. And it took a long time for him to contact me as well. And he was one of those people who just outright asked my forgiveness, you know, which I will always honor, you know. So he didn't owe me apologies, but he was one of the people he said I was one of those haters. I was one of those people that said, "Who's that crazy biatch out there just, you know, spouting this blah, blah stuff." And finally he was like, "Whoa," you know, and it all made sense.
He spent many years undiagnosed and existing, and I think all of us could use a pass at times. You know, we make mistakes, and
absolutely
we got to be able to move forward. Forgiveness is a necessary thing, or we're never going to get through this.
And we have to understand
everybody. You know, we can't kill everybody. We got to forgive and be able to move on.
If you can't, I mean, if you're struggling so hard that you're ruining your own relationships, how do you think you're going to be to just everyday people, right? It's hard. And we have to, when we're in the mefloquine world and people have mefloquine, if we're friends and advocates, you just got to cut that slack, and you can't take everything to heart, or I would have been I would have been destroyed. I mean, honestly, but the what I get back, it's priceless. So
you got to keep the good perspective, you know, you got to embrace the positive and try to negate the negative, because it's just it's like having two dogs at your back porch. You can feed one or the other, and you can't feed both. You got to pick one, and a lot of people are feeding that negative dog all the time, and it grows and gets bigger and it gets mean, and then it's hard to get rid of that dog. So you gotta really start feeding the positivity.
You're one of them who knows, like, we have Dave Bona come on a lot and talk about diet and abstaining from alcohol and all those things. You're prime proof that once you got a handle on that too, right? You understand how junk food throws you into, you're very fit. You're like a karate expert, are you not? Like,
I'll talk about jiu-jitsu. I've been doing martial arts since I was 12. I did judo when I was 12, and I took karate, kickboxing, boxing, wrestling, all kinds of stuff. But then in the Army in 2008, 7, like when I got back from overseas, I joined the hand-to-hand combat club at the RCD lines. There's a couple guys down there, and there's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and he started teaching us, and so that was my first lesson back then, and I just followed it through the years. I took a break here and there, but since getting out and moving back here, I've been training pretty much full time. So I
Do
attained
you
my
think that helps you? That's my point I'm trying to get
Oh
to.
yeah.
Not everybody's jujitsu and not everybody whatever, but you need to have that exercise or that place to put that energy, that negativity, right?
Yeah.
That focal point. It seems like everybody who gets a handle on this also needs something to focus on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I got promoted to purple belt in December, which is the expert level.
Nice.
Thank you. And
yeah, I see.
I'm going to be looking to do more programs coming up in the future to try and get more veterans into jiu-jitsu, because there's actually a bit of a brotherhood in jiu-jitsu too, and sisterhood. Obviously women are involved too, but there's like a collective community that all help to lift each other up, and it's a positive environment usually. So it's just a great place to train, and it's getting that aggression out, not just being fit, but like you can be aggressive as hard as you want in jiu-jitsu. So you're able to like max out all that aggression you build up through the day in sparring on the mat. And then when the lesson is done, you feel like $100 million. So
absolutely. And so I know you're a parent of young kids. So do you find, so like, you talked about getting aggression out, right? So it's like, don't take it home, right? So there's like relationships, but then I find a lot of things that like, I hear a lot of people that have taken mefloquine that have like adult kids, that are kind of like, rebuilding those relationships. But like we have young kids and, so like my kids are 3 and 6. And then like, I think it's important for us to, people that still have like, super young kids to talk about, how do you parent, right? Like I think
parenting with mefloquine has been one of the most challenging things I've ever had to do in my life.
Like, do you have key, like, do you have, like, in our house, we use key terms and words, like, to express things. And I think it's important for us to share those so that other people can try to implement them.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure what you use, but for me, I'm okay for a bit, but there's times when I have to go take a break. Like it could just be that there's too much stimuli going on in the room because kids are loud and noisy and they're crazy, and you don't want to be on them all the time for just having fun. So there's times when I have to go somewhere else and just get quiet. Usually it's I go outside and they know Daddy's going to have medicine, and I'll go smoke some cannabis, and it actually has the ability to make me come back calm. Even if I'm in a bad mood, it can be a shifter for me where it can bring me down. But just breathing, like deep breathing and things too, like when you need to go take a break, you have to, because when you push yourself to soldier on through those moments, that's when you're going to go into the black. And we all have had the mefloquine rage blow-ups, and then we feel guilty afterwards because it's nobody's fault. But we just get to a point where it's like the brain can't use higher function anymore for thought, so it ends up into the reptilian base brain, and that brain can only operate on a low level, which is do what I tell you through anger and direction. It can't have the higher function. So when you end up there, it's like you're not able to parent properly. You have to take a break and realizing when that's coming. So it's like recognizing the patterns in your own house of what's happening, and then doing something different to try and address the issue, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. And do you have ways that you explain to your kids? Like, so in our house, our youngest is 3 and loves superheroes. So trying to explain, kind of like PTSD and rage and, kind of like those moments to a 3-year-old is impossible. But, even at that age, they're aware. So one thing that, she kind of identified herself was, I noticed a pattern. So it was like angry, like the Hulk. Right. So she would say, she would say like, Daddy's angry like the Hulk. Right. So that kind of, helps us to like, to put like words to it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I found that I was always just afraid of like moments until we actually labeled it. Right. Because like we have labels for it ourselves, right? Like PTSD, anxiety, depression, brain injury, quinism, right? So we can label it, but it's like I never thought of the benefits of helping a 3-year-old label that, right? So like, as much as we try to like parent and protect and keep kids safe, they live in this environment too, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I talk pretty openly with my kids about things. Like, I give them, my oldest is 11, but her maturity is much broader than that because of what she's been through with me and the time that we had to be away from each other. It was painful. So dealing with hardship creates maturity, right? You go
Yes.
through something and you learn. So she's kind of more evolved than the kids in her age at what we'll call a normal level. So I'm able to talk to her about things, and she's able to pretty much understand. And I'm pretty much under control when it comes to like having rages. Like, I have them rarely, but they understand like why. So I guess for me, with her, I can talk pretty much right about. I call it mefloquine brain injury. I don't call it like quinism or anything. I've told them even on a scientific level how the pill has passed through my blood-brain barrier and went into my brain, and so they can kind of visualize it too. But my younger one, she doesn't really understand, and she's the one that obviously can be more testing on your patients because they need more supervision, direction, and things like that. So I don't know. It all comes down to what your child can really, I guess, hear. I don't think I have like specific different code names or things. That would probably be something that would be helpful maybe to come up with, so that you can able to speak on a level they might better understand, you know.
Exactly.
What I'm hearing from both of you is that identify it. Like, don't hide it, is what you're saying. You're saying that little child just labeled it because it needs a name, because something's happening here. And I think we all feel better when we know that that's got a name and it fits in a box and this is okay. And so I think that's what you're both saying. I don't try to hide it. This is what's wrong with daddy or mommy, and this is how we're going to get through it, right? And I think it's just straight up honesty is what you're both saying. And then you're saying, like, for a tiny mind, I like that Hulk thing.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. I think that you can see in a cartoon, he's like someone else, but he comes back to that calm person again, and kind of gives you that a little baby brain, that flip side kind of idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
military families in general are struggling, I would say, at a higher percentage than even society, which is at a high percentage of struggles on its own. Like, the relationships and bonds that you have with your husband, wife, brother, kids, whatever, they're affected by the time away, and the risk and the anxieties that you have to feel as a lover of someone who has to go away. And nobody likes that. I would never want to choose that life again. It was hard. So just the family, that they go through so much just on the military side of things, without the brain injury and mental health issues that come into play afterwards. It is hard.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
It's about living day to day, and you have to find the positive, good things and kind of celebrate them, and don't hold the negatives so hard against yourself, and move on from things. Don't get upset over the failures in life, because you're gonna fail. You're gonna fail a lot. You just gotta keep going. I still fail all the time. I'm fit. I'm pretty good on diet, but I go into holes, and the winter is hard for me too. Like, I'm a human being too. Like, we all struggle. So
that's right.
What are the
just having the mindset to keep going?
What are the things you find you do in the winter to help with the symptoms?
Well, it's harder because obviously I have a 1-year-old son, so the things I want to do are limited to what he can tag along and do, because I pretty much stay home as a father full time, is what my job has become on top of everything. So, but when I can get free, and when he gets a little bit older, I like to go and do bushcraft things, where you go into the forest and hike, and you can learn to survive on the land using primitive methods. And I like learning about wild edible and medicinal plants, kind of like the old ways, you know.
Right up my alley. My favorite thing to do.
The things you learn, hey?
Yeah, oh, I love that too. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I like doing that stuff. And in the military, I spent a lot of time outside, and I missed that part of it. So it gives me the exposure to the outdoors that I need, because it's therapeutic for
Oh, yeah.
sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Brandon,
I'm gonna bring them out this summer. I'm gonna get them out early. It's gonna be like 1.5 years old out in the bush.
Oh, it won't hurt them at all.
It's gonna make for cute photos.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end,
Love it. So I'll be out in the bush, and there'll be 1 or 2 after everybody, and I'll be like 30 batting them away.
Me.
So.
That's me.
so
Everybody else is safe when I'm around.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So at the end of every episode, we always bring up a message of hope. And then, so I just want to know, like, what your message of hope would be.
Yeah.
Whether it's to someone that's just finding out about mefloquine, or someone that's, you know, struggling with parenting or relationships, or, you know, even with getting medically released from the military, that's a huge area that I think there needs to be a lot more hope in.
Well, it's just, you got to be able to take those hardships and learn from them. So as you're going forward, you're gonna find things out that are gonna, you know, alleviate some of that pressure on you. Like when I found out about that mefloquine was even a thing, you feel like you can start to be okay, because you can place those intrusive thoughts you've been getting that you would never want to view in your life. You can look at the anxiety and the anger and at a different way when you figure it out, you know.
Absolutely.
So coming to terms with it is hard, and it's kind of shocking, because a lot of us almost worship the authority of government nowadays. So when you come to find out that you've been betrayed, and that this was kind of done to you almost knowingly, it can be a little bit debilitating. So it's just knowing, you know, that you are a valuable human being and people do care about you. Even though the system is showing you no compassion or sympathy, there's people out there that do care, and you got to keep going. When our brains lie to us and tell us, you know, that we're worthless and to end it, you need to just kind of build a small, at least, support group around you that can help to bring you out of that negative mindset. Reach out. Don't be afraid to come forward and talk about it. The stigma's got to go away, or if we can't talk about a problem, we're never going to find a solution. So we have to be able to have the courage to just come out and talk about it, and regardless what people are going to say or think about us. And reach out. Like, we have a great community of advocates out here that love nothing more than when new people come out and find out the truth, because the truth will make you feel whole again, you know, when you figure it out. I don't know what else.
No, you couldn't have said it better. You just couldn't have. That was beautiful. I mean, that's a perfect message, people. You heard it here. Then we really appreciate you coming on, Brandon, and sharing your story with us. And you know, you're strong, and you're gonna, you know yourself, you're gonna get through this day at a time. And that's what I want to allude to again, was that you said once you know what you have, then you can move forward from that. And please don't ever think you're alone anymore. That may have happened in the past, but like Brandon said, there's a whole community of advocates who are just waiting for you to reach out and be part of the awakening. So take care of each other. Brandon, I can't thank you enough. Kentrina, thanks again. I know.
It's like Hot Mess Express.
You got me too.
Every episode.
We're going to have to do this again, because
we will definitely do this.
So
I still have tons of questions, so you'll have to come back like 10 times.
Good. And you know what, quickly, like, Brandon, you're part of the rally. I don't know if you're going to make it this year or not. I know with parenting, you're here and there, and you've been to 2 of them. And if not, I hope you'll write something in and send it. And I know in the background, you're always there for us anyways. So
I always do my best to try and make it if I can. So
I know you do. So I love you, my friend. I thank you for coming on, and I look forward to chatting and bringing you back on again.
Awesome.
Sounds great. It's nice seeing you too. Miss you guys, and take care.
You too. Thank you.